This is a special presentation from ABC 50, WWTI Watertown.
Tradition, food, music, history, and culture, all the things making our community beautiful and a rich part of Hispanic heritage.
That represents all of us. Some of us are lighter, some of us are darker, but we all have that Latino heartbeat.
Expression and understanding what makes the Latino community unique, taking shape in different ways.
I've been showing in Central New York for a long time, but never work that really featured my Chicano culture. My hope was that it would connect with people here.
Creating opportunities and overcoming even some of the most challenging obstacles.
My grandfather and grandmother were the first here in the United States. They were migrant workers.
Sharing what they've learned to inspire others.
The fact that I can still be creative and be able to put my creativity to create stories and work with the students, but I'm able to pass those skills to this new generation is fantastic. It's something that is what make me go to work almost every day.
Hola, and welcome to our special celebration as we highlight the rich and long-standing culture of Central New York's Hispanic community. You'll meet designers, creators, and mentors using their talents to help shape our vibrant communities. We begin in Oswego and put the spotlight on a professor with purpose, gifted with an eye for visual storytelling and passing his gift on to the next generation of creators. Spend just a few minutes in his filmmaking or storytelling class, it quickly becomes obvious the SUNY Oswego Associate Professor brings a wealth of talent, skill, knowledge, and passion to his students.
I just love it. I say that, you know, you go through life trying to figure out what is the purpose of your life. At least that for me is important, and I found it. You know, yes, working for MTV or working in HBO was an amazing experience for me, no doubt about it. It brings me to where I am today. But no job has given me more satisfaction than what I do today at SUNY Oswego. Because I want all of you to experience the process. I think for me, this is not about being a professor just to teach you how to do white balance in a camera or how to light a subject. It's about, can you reach the goal that you want to reach?
Francisco has fond memories of his childhood in Venezuela and pictured his future at a very young age.
I just think I was very lucky since I was a kid to know that I want to be involved in visual storytelling. I was fascinated. I grew up, of course, with Star Wars. When Star Wars came out the first time, it was such a revolution that that movie for me changed the perspective of what I want to do with my life.
And the force is strong with this one.
It's a difficult job, for sure. You know, it's a lot of personalities, different students, different personalities, but in general, I just love the interaction with the students, to be able to help them to get those skills, but most importantly, to believe in themselves.
And younger kids got a chance to learn that important life lesson during summer camp for visual storytelling at WCNY. The 10 to 14-year-olds were selected for the sessions to support students from racially and ethnically diverse and underprivileged backgrounds.
Full lectures. They were able to learn editing, video editing, camera composition, camera shots, everything that was the theoretical aspect for them to do their stories.
Picture-perfect place to shoot a movie with ready-made sets.
Yes. Oh, they played.
Come here and they see this car and their imagination.
Yes, they did a scene about being a mechanic. They did a scene about robbing the bank, so the police arrive. But they use the car, they use the city hall, they use the radio. So each of them create a different story based in the different settings that they could use.
Evan, I need to talk to you.
Not now, we're so close. Zombies could find us any minute.
But when you see these kids actually talking about, this is what I want in the composition of the shot, I want a close-up, it's like, wow, this is exactly what this is for. To be able to translate what was in their mind into an actual visual
Little Steven
story.
Spielberg's.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my
It was fantastic. I love it, and I cannot wait to see what happens next time.
And a surprise for Francisco, what the kids chose to do during their hour of free time.
Where they actually were allowed to use their phones or tablets and things like that in order to disconnect. And the beauty was that they didn't use their phone, they didn't use the tablet, they were playing, they were creating all the concept for the movie, so they really were very much present. And that is a fantastic thing.
The camp was free for families who would have found it difficult to pay. And thanks to a grant from the Central New York Community Foundation, meals were also provided. What can that do for a child?
Same that happened to me, right? I mean, I come from a very humble family. I would not say that we were poor, but we come from a humble family, and giving the opportunity to dream, and not only to dream, but to put ideas in the table and see those ideas come into reality, transform the way that you see things. That process of bringing an idea to fulfill a final product changed things, because I'm no longer a dreamer. I'm somebody who knows I can dream, but also I can actually make things happen.
When not teaching, you may catch Francisco on his popular podcast, now into season 6 of From Suarez Basement.
It's not a podcast about gossiping or superficial conversation. This is a podcast about I want to learn from you, and my students want to learn from you. At the beginning, I say, hi, everybody, masters of your own destiny. I use that phrase all the time, not in the podcast, but in my classes. I call my students masters of their own destiny because they really are.
Coming up, a Chicano artist shares his passion for art by sharing his skills beyond the canvas. But first,
My grandfather and grandmother were the first here in the United States. They were migrant workers. I like to share all that. I share it with my students. I'm open with my students.
Tim Castilleja is a science teacher here in Watertown whose Mexican heritage has given him a love of history and family that he shares with his whole community.
My grandfather and grandmother were the first here in the United States. They were migrant workers. My father came up to New York to work with his father, and that's how they met my mother. So they would go to Florida, they would go to Texas, they go to New York, North Carolina.
From orange groves to cotton fields, apple orchards, and dairy farms, Tim's Mexican forebears crisscrossed the country's agricultural heartland, and along the way, forged the memories Tim and his family carry with them still.
They traveled a lot, and every time we saw them, they would come to our house and visit us, and they'd always have workers with them. And so I got used to having all these people in my house stopping by on their way to wherever they were working. I do remember working with my grandfather when I was little. He would send me under the orange trees, and we would roll all the good oranges out from under the orange trees. So I do remember that. That's one thing he would tell us to do, is go under the orange trees and roll out all the good oranges.
And the story of his grandparents and how they found their way from Mexico all the way to northern New York is something Tim is proud to share with his students and friends.
I like to share all that. I share it with my students. I'm open with my students. I tell them my life. I like to talk to some of my students who have a Hispanic heritage and see what they're doing and what their families like to do and what recipes they do, and do their parents cook, and do they learn all the recipes and things like that.
Tim's passion for his Hispanic heritage led him to rekindle age-old traditions that brought together generations of his family.
My aunt, when she comes to visit, we make tamales. And she has taught us how to make tamales, and that is not an easy thing to do. It's hard. And homemade salsas and things like that.
And though the Castillejas are longtime residents of northern New York, they reached back into their family's cultural heritage to bring traditions such as the quinceañera to the North Country. The Latin American celebration honoring their daughter's 15th birthday was a special tradition they were excited to share with their neighbors.
My daughter had her quince So we threw a quince for her when she turned 15, and we did it here in Watertown, and no one knew what that was. From father at Holy Family did not know what it entailed. It's a church service, and then there's a reception, so no one really knew what it was. So we actually brought that here for our friends and our family here to experience that.
And sharing those special traditions with the North Country became a project of rediscovery that the whole Castilleja family joined in on.
My two aunts that I rely a lot on with my heritage and stories about my dad and my grandparents and everything like that, we really talked to them about what the aspects were, what did we have to do, what were the traditions. We actually bought a book also to read on what the traditions were and stuff like that. So we actually had to learn too, because we had never been to one here in New York. There's a lot of church traditions. There are processes in the church where you have family members present gifts to the daughter, and you pick friends that mean a lot to you and to her. And the church service itself was different. My daughter went to the statue of Mary and presented her roses and prayed in front of her. And that's something you don't see every day.
Today, Tim cherishes the memory and stories of his Mexican grandfather and is particularly proud to pass that legacy on to his own children.
I do want my children to throw a quince if they have daughters. I do want them to keep in touch with my relatives in Texas. I'm still learning a lot. I still rely on my aunts, and we still have stories and a lot of things to learn from them about my father and my grandfather, and they're just always willing to share. And I'm so glad we are close, that we try and get together. Even though they live in Texas, we try and get together quite often to see each other. I want them to keep that up, the family aspect, and just keep going with all the traditions and the closeness with the family.
I was trying to imagine a world in which Chicano people were able to learn from our indigenous ancestors and bring that forward into the future.
He's an artist filling a void with murals, paintings, and sculptures to tell untold stories. His hope is to expand the narrative of how people see Chicanos and Latinos.
My name is Caetano Valenzuela. I'm a Chicano artist working here in Central New York. Born in Houston and bounced around between Houston and San Antonio, and I've been drawing since as far back as I can remember. When I was in college, one of my art professors told us that if you're going to be an artist, you have to love something. You have to hang your hat on something. You got to love the smell of the studio, the smell of the paint, the feel of the pencil in your hand, the feel of the brush in your hand, the way the paint lays down. That feeling is something that I try and chase, not only like the actual feel of it, but like creating something that's like didn't exist before. Painting and illustration, I guess, are my passions, twin passions, and they overlap a lot. So you'll see that in, in some of the work that I have here. A lot of my illustration influence comes into the way that I paint. This body of work is sort of a new direction for me. And it's a body of work that's about creating space for Chicanos in images of the future. I want people to feel that there's a place where Chicanos, Latinos can be pictured in imagined visions of the future and thereby create space for us to exist in that future, have a sort of destination rather than be relegated to the sidelines. I was really trying to imagine a world in which Chicano people were able to learn from our indigenous ancestors and bring that forward into the future. My indigenous ancestry is Mayan, Mexica, and those cultures, have a god named Tlaloc, and Tlaloc is a god of water. When we think about the future, we can't help but think about the future in terms of like how we exist with the environment. So I thought that Tlaloc was an apt, not just symbol, but presence that I wanted to exist in this imagined future. If you look at the show, like my pieces are like kind of revolve around like the land being sacred and water being sacred. And so I wanted to have that sound of like the burbling water. In the way I think about this imagined future and the way I think about the world in general, I think of like in terms of cycles, life cycles and things like that. And so this is sort of imagining what would it look like if we had cybernetic sort of creatures, you know, but like when you open that up, there's another, you know, machine, there's another machine, but at the heart of it, there's like our flesh, our brown flesh, and then underneath that is our skull. And like that is like the core of who we are, is like we are, you know, creatures that are born, we die, but we were born again. I've been showing in Central New York for a long time, but never work that really featured my Chicano culture. But I really felt that it was important to me to make it. And I was hoping, my hope was that it would connect with people here. My hope is to expand the narrative of like how people see like Chicano people, but Latinos in general. I want to like help expand the narrative by like creating like, you know, images of us in the future to widen the narrow view of how people might see us just based on like what they see on the news. The Phoenix one, I painted on the side of the Delavan building, which is known as an artist studio building. It was a beautiful experience to paint it in the community and have like, you know, people from the community come up and say like, yo, we love that. It was about, you know, the resilience of like the people of Syracuse, and like Syracuse is a tough town. You know, we go through really hard winters, economic hardships, and still we're the mighty Salt City. And so this was a message to like, you know, anybody that feels like, you know, they've been through the ringer and still I rise. It's about imagining, you know, people of color having like a beautiful vision of themselves and sharing that.
They're phenomenal.
Coming up, Elisa Morales is making sure everyone in the Latino community has a place at the Great New York State Fair. And she's hoping for fairgoers, it's love at first bite. At a very young age, Elisa Morales had a vision to celebrate and showcase the spirit of the Latino as resilient. She's getting to see that dream realized every summer now on one of the biggest stages in New York State. From deep-fried delights, goofy games,
you're doing great,
to exhilarating rides. The New York State Fair is a magical place for kids. And it was for seasoned fairgoer Elisa Morales when she was a little girl. While enjoying all the time-honored signature staples, she felt something was missing.
My parents obviously brought us to the New York State Fair, and I fell in love with it, everything about it. You know, the rides, the games, the animals especially, everything. The only thing is that I noticed that no one was speaking Spanish. There was not like any rice and beans. There's no salsa music playing, and I thought to myself as I continued to grow up, I really love the fair, but I would really love to see a dedicated Latino area to share the beauty of our culture and our heritage with fairgoers.
We are so excited. We're ready to feed people, dance with people, have so much fun.
Elisa, now a mom and even more in love with the State Fair as superintendent of the fair's first Latino village.
I really feel that Latinos add the spice to America's melting pot, so why not have representation here at the fair and be included with all the amazing memories that families make here. This has been many years in the making. It was kind of a 20-year conversation just to get to the point where Latino Village was born, but once it was an enormous amount of work. There's a lot moving parts all year long, but especially the closer the fair gets, the more hectic it gets. really put a lot of thought into how were we going to represent all of these countries. So the 20 countries that are selected are primarily Spanish-speaking countries. So that's who we have. And we also have the American flag because, as we know, we have different countries that are coming here, immigrating to the United States. So some people identify as Puerto Rican American or Cuban American. So we always make sure that the American flag is included as well.
This looks delightful.
Fabulous.
Oh
So this
my
is chicken,
gosh.
right?
Chicken, beef.
Behind the celebration of music, food, culture, and crafts, Elisa worked day and night to proudly show the best of Latino culture at the fair. And this has become a can't-miss attraction, captivating fairgoers of all ages.
It's amazing to see how people react. They're happy to see that we're here to stay, we're growing, we're going to keep developing this area.
That is delicious.
I've already had these, but they're even better the second time.
Good. And keep offering mouth-watering, authentic food and unique experiences.
Latinos contribute to everything that's successful here in the United States, right? We're in all different facets of life, and we're in all different industries. So we crossed paths with a Latino artist named Tino Lopez, and we just started having a conversation about doing a live painting, and it came to life. It was a blank canvas with just some inspiration about, you know, what it is to be Latino and the colors and the vibrancy of our people. So you'll notice that in our painting, there's not just one color to that face. There's so many different shades, and that represents all of us. I mean, some of us are lighter, some of us are darker, but we all have that Latino heartbeat just beating every single day.
An important part of the pulse of our rich community.
My father passed away, and he always made sure that I knew that we had an island in the Caribbean and that my roots, they just run so deep into that island. So for me, it was a huge victory because we were here, we were seen, we were heard. People ate our food, they broke bread with us, you know, they danced with us. It was just amazing, and it hasn't stopped feeling that great ever since. It's beyond super. It's a dream come true, really. Like, the little girl in me is like so happy.
Whether it's expanding the narrative, finding the beauty in space, or adding spice to America's melting pot, remember to be masters of your own destiny, not just during Hispanic Heritage Month, but every day. Thank you for watching.